be Sunday, so it's going to be on Monday.
Inshallah. Yeah, I've just seen that.
Inshallah, United Eid.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Yeah.
Been a while
Yeah.
for United Eid.
Everyone's too busy fighting about which day Eid is. Mashallah. Anyway, we are live now on YouTube, mashallah. I will stop complaining about how we are split into different groups.
Yep. Ready?
Assalamu alaikum, Beg Sahab. So let's start, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, listeners, viewers on YouTube and other media sources. You're very welcome here on Radio Ramadan London. Today is Saturday, the 30th. Inshallah, Eid, maybe, according to some people, Monday, inshallah. So Saudi has announced Monday, but obviously we follow our local. We won't get into that topic. Whenever my local Jamia Masjid is doing is the day I will go, inshallah. We should all respect that, respect each other's local Jamia Masjid, and the Ummah, inshallah, may have one Eid. So before we start, just a little bit of an introduction. This is Hot Topics with myself, Tamkin Riaz. I usually do programs on Thursdays and Saturdays. This probably is my last program, but I've been asked maybe if I could stretch to tomorrow, and inshallah, I will let you know. So Hot Topics, fantastic guest for you today. As usual, a very knowledgeable friend of mine who I've traveled with and done other things with, charity works and all sorts. And we are talking today, as he is an expert, a chartered accountant. He's an expert in tax and self-assessment, mashallah. And he is the one and only Tahir Beg Sahab. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, Tahir Beg Sahab.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to all the listeners here on Ramazan Radio 87.9 FM. Good to be back. I'd taken a commercial break for some time, so I'd been out of the country. I'm back as Tamkin mentioned. We are at that time of the year, apart from Eid, people are also preparing to get their self-assessment tax returns completed. Because Tamkin, you probably are aware that the tax year finished on the 5th of April 2022. And just as a tester, can you tell me which tax year are we in now?
No, don't. Well, usually the tax year is the previous year, usually. So you have to make sure your taxes are in order. So you must have got your tax in before the 31st of January for 2021, and now we are 22-23. Am I sort of correct?
Yes. Well, we are correct. We are in tax year 22-23, which started on the 6th of April 2022, and will end on the 5th of April 23. But what we need to file the returns for are for tax year ended 2021-22, which ended on the 5th of April. And by the way, just to correct you, the deadline for that, the paper deadline for sending in your return is 31st of October 2022. Yeah. And the online return by the 31st of January 2023. But, I always advise my clients, don't leave it lastminute.com, because if you do, and if you use accountants like myself, we actually charge you premium rates. So why should you waste your money? In fact, when I've gone through the procedures, a lot of you should be able to do your simple tax returns online yourself. So it's not a difficult procedure. But let's start from the very beginning. The first thing is, as we mentioned, tax year started on the 6th of April 2021 and so ended on the 5th of April 2022. And in between, if people have got any questions, please do feel free to call. Tamkin, what's the telephone number they should be ringing?
We have two telephone numbers, 077 614 60614, and also studio number is 0203 621 7590. Also, if you're on YouTube or you're on any other source, you can type in the bottom, a question will pop up, inshallah. Or call in live, no problem at all.
So, and what I will do is I'll attempt to obviously answer those questions. But what I want to concentrate specifically is on self-assessment, and especially for people, small-time traders, small self-employed, or have had earnings, whether it's working, doing some part-time self-employed work, whether it's renting a room, all those sort of things, or even pensioners, because as a live case, yesterday a pensioner rang me, and she said, well, her husband died recently, and she started receiving a pension, and she's also received some allowances from the revenue. And are those taxable? So the first thing we need to know is, well, some benefits are taxable, others are not. But having said that, the good news is each one of us who is UK resident can have income, can have earnings, can have profits of up to £12,570 in the tax year before you pay any income tax whatsoever.
It's about £1,000 a month you can earn.
Yes, it's just over £1,000 a month. Yes, yeah. So it's not petty cash by any means. So every little helps. And apart from that, there are other tax-free allowances as well. But we'll go through that at a later stage. So if you were working, say even if you were working on a part-time basis, and as you said, Tamkin, if we earn £1,000 a month, provided this is your main and only job, and this is all the earnings you have, there should be no income tax for you to pay. The moment you start to earn more than that, that's when you start to pay income tax. And if you are working for somebody, which means you are employed, then your employer will automatically deduct the tax from your salary or your wages before the money is handed over to you. So that is operated through the PAYE system, pay as you earn. And on the other hand, if you are self-employed, that's you're working for yourself, then you actually have to file in a self-assessment tax return. And if you started working during the year that we are talking about, that means you became self-employed. You should inform the revenue that you have become self-employed so that they can issue you with what they call a UTR. UTR stands for Unique Tax Reference, and that's applicable to you. They ask you obviously a few questions. What type of work are you doing, or self-employment? When did you start this self-employment? What's your national insurance number, date of birth, and that sort of things. So once you've got that, they send you the UTR. This will be your unique tax reference, and this is what you have to use on all the correspondence that you will have going forward with the revenue. And that's the reference which will be used on your self-employment tax return. So as far as that is concerned, is that clearly understood, Mr. Riaz?
Thank you. Yes, it is. Also, nowadays, you have told me, everything is live and online as well. So what is that, real time?
Well, real time means if you're working for somebody, when your employer is actually doing your wages, whether it's weekly or monthly, once he's processed that, he automatically informs the revenue. So the revenue know immediately that you, Mr. Tamkin Riaz, has earned £500 this week, and this is the tax and this is the national insurance he's liable to.
How do you know how much I earn a week, sir?
I know a lot more than what you know about you.
MashaAllah. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So that's the first thing. And that's that 12,570, Mr. Riaz, is called your personal allowance. It is to you personally. You cannot transfer it. I know you love your wife, but you can't tell her, look, you can have my allowance, darling. That does not work. All
I
right.
want her allowance because she's very part-time, part-time, part-time.
Yes.
She does
Well,
about 10 hours a week.
that is a possibility. Depends how much you are earning. There is something called a married couples allowance,
Mhm.
right? Or marriage allowance, sorry, which if she is not earning a lot of money, and that applies to everybody. There are certain, obviously, on all of these, there are certain terms and conditions. One of them thing is, when she was born, all those. If you meet that criteria, then there is an allowance which is equivalent to about £250 in tax saved,
Oh.
which you could claim depending on her earnings or your earnings, because this is transferable between spouses.
I will
Okay.
have to ask you off air about that,
Yeah,
inshallah.
it's
But
called,
not
it's
premium
actually,
rates, friends rates, not premium rates.
yes, no, that's French rate, but still it will cost you an arm and a leg, you know. It's actually called married allowance, and it's worth £250. But apart from that, Tamkin, the next question you would say, well, supposing if I have a salary of £20,000, what is the tax that I will be paying? Now, as I said before, up to 12,570, no tax. You start to pay tax after that. And if you are earning 20,000, of that 12,570 is tax free. The balance is 7,430. So 20,000 minus 12,570 leaves 7,430. And this is what we call your taxable income or taxable earnings.
And
And
that's
on
at
that,
25% on that
no, no, no,
7,400?
no. The
No,
basic rate is 20%.
20.
Yes.
Why was I thinking 25? Maybe national insurance added, because when I get at the
Well,
end of the month, when I look at it, it's about 25%
let's
missing.
not confuse the two.
Yeah.
Net insurance is totally separate.
Mhm.
But I didn't realize that you are working for the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak. He obviously needs all the money that he has been dishing out during the COVID, very generously, which was, of course, needed. But some of that money needs to be clawed back, and I'll be talking about that later on.
No,
But
yes.
currently, the basic rate of income tax is 20%.
Up to what level, sir?
Up to what level? That's the question I thought you were going to ask. So I have my notes somewhere.
Is it
Uh,
36, 38, 40?
no, no,
No.
no. For as I said, the first 12,570, 0%, because that's your personal allowance. Between 12,501 and 50,270, that is 20% rate.
That's very generous.
Yeah,
50.
well, that's very generous. You only start to pay 40% when you have your earnings anything over 50,270. So if you, for example, have 50,271 on 50,000 up to 50,270, it will be 20%. That pound above that limit, you'll be taxed at 40%.
That's very generous. As I say, I remember when it was 32, 34, 36,000, and then you had to pay on that 40%. So yes, good.
But the bad news is that these rates and allowances are going to remain fixed for the next 4 or 5 years now.
Oh, yes, yes.
So when you start to earn more, you will actually find that you end up paying more taxes as well, because the allowances are not going to go up. And this is where Rishi Sunak is now plowing back the generous allowances and furlough schemes, the monies that was dished out in the form of various loans and so on during the pandemic. And to add insult to injury, shall I tell you some bad news as well? You mentioned about national insurance. What you will find is that from from your pay slips coming in sort of June, July onward, you will be paying an extra 1.25% of national insurance. Effectively,
Wow.
national insurance.
MashaAllah.
Not only you, in fact, your employer as well.
That's right. They pay a bit more. So
Yeah.
obviously, if when they have to create money and then they give it out, they need to claw it back, as you say, so that they
Yes.
can balance the books. And they have to do that.
Yes, that's the case. And coming back to the books, this is where I think we need to concentrate on as well, because you need to get your books in, which means you need to get your self-assessment returns in.
Yeah.
And for that, it's important that all your records are in place. And the type of records that we are looking at is, for example, if you are self-employed, what is your income? That's what are your sales for the year? You might have issued sales invoices, make sure they are in order, date order or serial number. If you are doing a shop, then you have a till. Make sure all your till records and your takings have been recorded in some sort of form. And then on the other hand, you also have your expenses of running the business, of being self-employed, including if you're working from home, you are able to claim an allowance of £6 per week for use of home for business purposes. And the revenue give you that allowance, even if you use your home for 1 day in a tax year. That allowance is available because, as you know, a lot of people have been doing courses, working online, working from home. So this allowance is available. Of course, if you are spending a lot of time and it's costing you extra to operate your business from home, then you will be able to claim for that extra amount as well.
That's
provided
very
you have
good.
got records.
So there's a £250 that you can claim, maybe
No.
married man. And this
Yes,
is 312 approximately.
yes,
So it must be
£312.
£500. Yes.
Well, each one depends, because this £6 per week is available to people who are self-employed and also to employees who are required to have work from home.
Yes.
So,
I have done that over the last 2 years, work from home.
yes,
So can I go back 2 years, or will it only
you could go back up to 4 years.
4 years? No, I haven't worked from home for 4 years.
Yeah,
2
if you
years,
worked from home
2 years.
for the last 2 years, a year or so, then that's what you could claim.
I'll definitely be coming to see you, Mr. Beg.
I'm sure you will. Yeah. And the way to claim it, the married allowance of 250. There's a form. It's called R43.
Form R43. I've made a note. Married.
You can download it from the revenue website, fill it in, and send it back.
Brilliant.
Okay. Now, the other thing which you need to be aware, if you earn a lot of money, which means you start earning over 100,000, and if you earn more than 125,000, this personal allowance that we are talking about of 12,570, which is the basic rate, personal allowance, you will not get that. You will actually lose that allowance. Right. So that's something, again, you need to bear about. It's just like child benefit. Everybody can get child benefit, but you will not get any child benefit if you got children and one of you is earning more than £60,000.
Oh, 60K. Okay.
Yeah, it's 60K.
Well done. So my children are grown up. So if I have another child now, will I get child allowance?
Yes, of course, there's no age limit, but I'm not going to comment about your health condition. Make sure you don't suffer a heart attack in the process.
Well, to ask these things, because once your children are grown up,
Yes.
can you? Is it because you've already had?
It's not. It's not age related.
Right. Good.
If you have a child, you could have a stepchild. If they're say only 5 years old, 10 years old, then, if they are entitled to, yes.
You could adopt, because adoption is a big problem in the Muslim community. There are so many Muslim children who need adoption.
Yes.
So that's a good way. Thank you. I hope you don't mind me asking these questions in this sort of way.
No, because really it's for all the listeners as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So 60K above, 100K above, you will lose your 12,570. But obviously then you don't need it. You don't need that 12,470.
Well, that's right.
That much, yes.
Previously, it was even available to the millionaires. But a couple of years ago, they started restricting the allowances. But, on the self-employment, I mentioned about all your sources of income. You need to keep a detailed record of what you are getting.
Worldwide and assets.
Yes. If you are a UK resident, then you are liable to your worldwide income. But on a self-employment basis, specifically, I would say, make sure you've got detailed records. And I always advise my clients that once you become self-employed, open a separate bank account which relates purely to your business. Keep your personal transactions separate from your business transactions. Right? So
that's a good idea, because then you have a separate account, and then you can have a separate debit card and what do they call them? Debit card and loan
credit
card,
cards.
Credit card separately, and everything's in one, and then you can always go back. I mean, credit, debit card, it will give you a bill monthly, and everything is itemized. So yes, good idea. Keep it completely separate. And then
more
give
importantly,
it all the accountant. Then give it all the accountant to sort out.
No, because accountants normally charge by the time they spend. So if they have to go through your bank statements, extracting what's the business and what's the personal, it actually means that they're spending more times mean more higher fee.
Right.
Now, it's in your interest to make sure that, your fees are reasonable. So that's a very good reason why you should hold a separate account which relates purely to your business. And as far as your personal transactions are concerned, then you carry those out from your personal bank account. Okay. And you mentioned about holding a debit card, a business debit card. That's also a very good idea, because it means all your business transactions are on one debit card and are going through one bank account. Makes life easier for everybody.
MashaAllah, good.
Yeah. And don't forget, the revenue can actually challenge some of the figures that you put in your returns. And you need to be able to justify where those figures are, how you arrived at those figures. And the easiest way to do is if everything is recorded and is going through your bank account, or your debit cards or your credit card, which are your business related. It makes life easy for everybody.
Business related travel, business related subsistence that maybe you're eating and not drinking, but eating and having coffee, whatever, and you're having a business meeting, entertainment.
Let's not get carried away with this entertainment business, because as far as the revenue is concerned, and entertainment is not an allowable business expense.
I thought it was. Thank you for clarifying. Even
Mr. I know you think a lot of other things, but it's the thoughts that matter are what the revenue think. And as far as they are concerned, entertainment is not an allowable business expense. However, for example, if I'm based here in London and I have to go and see a client of mine in Chester, and you've been there,
Chester, Wales as well, I've been.
Exactly. Well, the mileage which I have to do, I can claim 45p a mile for business use, right? That I'm able to claim tax-free.
So if I travel to see a client in Pakistan by car for 3 weeks, I can claim 45p a mile.
Mr. Riaz, if you are in that business, there's no point in putting in a claim for £4,000 of mileage when you're only earning £400 from him. You got to be realistic. But if you keep a detailed record, if you're in that line of business and it's related to your business, then the answer is yes. So coming back to, for example, when I'm going to see my clients here, I keep a log of the mileage I'm doing to see my client along with a date. And then at the end of the month, I put in a claim to my company and they pay me 45p for business mileage. And up to 10,000 miles, business miles a year, which is equivalent to £4,500, they can pay me tax-free for using my car for business purposes.
Okay, so it's 45p a mile. What about the petrol and the
So
insurance?
this is all inclusive.
All
So
inclusive.
within that 45p is wear and tear, insurance, road tax, and so on. Right? And if you do
So the
more than
maximum,
10,000 miles,
maximum
then
is
the
10,000 a
rate.
year. Is it?
No,
Maximum.
if you do more than 10,000, if so, for example, if you're a salesman, the chances are you do more than 10,000.
Right.
And
Right.
anything over 10,000, the rate drops down to 25p a mile.
Half, or, well, less than, yes, 25. Okay, right.
Okay. But
Okay.
what I was going to say is when I am away,
Mm.
and if I have to stay overnight in a hotel, the hotel costs are tax deductible. It's an expense.
Right.
If I have to have a meal, it's subsistence, then subsistence, then that's fine. I can claim for that as well, but not
So
for entertaining
£100 a meal,
clients.
is it? Is it £100 a meal
I
or
say I
£500
use
a meal?
I use the word reasonable. I
Reasonable.
use the word reasonable. Yes,
Right.
that's important to get it right.
Okay.
Otherwise, it will
Reasonable.
be totally disallowed for tax purposes. And then also, it depends what line of business you are in. In some, for example, where you work in the building trade, you need to have protective boots. That would be taxed, protective clothing.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a television presenter, then you get an allowance for having your hair done, clothes allowance. These are agreed by the unions. So it all depends. If in my particular case, as I'm a qualified chartered certified accountant, the subscription I have to pay ACCA, that is a tax deductible expense because it's a requirement of my profession that I am a member. And for that membership fees, that is tax deductible. Again, coming back, if I have to go on a training course, the fees I have to pay for the course, that is again tax deductible. If I'm in a profession where I need to have professional indemnity insurance, I'm an architect, I'm a designer, then the answer is yes. If I'm in the medical field, I need to have a certain amount of defense union, general medical defense union. These are all tax deductible expenses. Whether I'm self-employed, I can deduct it through my self-assessment. And if I'm an employee, then these are claims that I can make to the revenue because it's required for me to carry out my particular profession.
Mashallah, very informative. Now, being an accountant as you are, what about suits? Can you claim for your suits that you have to buy a certain amount of suits per year, maybe 3, 4, 5 a year? Protective clothing, I understand, but what generally you have to look
No,
smart?
the answer is no.
No, okay. It's just of TV presenters or people
Yes,
like
they get a special allowance because it's a requirement of their job that they are presentable.
right.
So that's why they are able to claim. They have agreed with the unions, so they are able to claim a specific allowance for that. So each one depends. If you were a barrister, then the wig and the coat which you need for you to present yourself in court, that would be tax deductible expense. However, the suit which you need, because there was a case, a very famous case, whereby a barrister lady, she said, "Oh, I would not wear this type of skirt or blouse privately," but the revenue challenged that. And they said, well, this actually has a dual purpose. If you don't want to wear it, that's your choice, but it's not a requirement. So that was not tax deductible. However, the wig and the gown, which you are required to wear in court, that would be tax deductible.
Interesting. Very good. I've learned something.
Well, for you to be able to claim that, you have to be a barrister, though.
I'll have to get my online certificate then.
Absolutely, absolutely. But, moving on from there, a lot of people should be aware that if you are an employee, of course, tax is deducted through PAYE. You're paying it weekly or monthly. But if you're self-employed, you actually pay your taxes in installments.
Okay.
You pay your tax on, I've got a bit of a hay fever, so I'm coughing a bit. You pay your taxes in installment, 31st of January and 31st of July.
2 installments.
2 installments. So you need to bear that in mind in your cash flows, because whatever you earn doesn't mean everything is yours. As we said, you allow your business expenses, and then after the business expenses, you get your personal allowance, and the rest is taxable depending 20%, 40%, or the top rate being 45%. So you should make a provision of that either every week, every month. Have a separate account, which is your savings account, and you put the money for the taxman there, so that when the tax bill does come, which is in January and July, you don't end up going into coma,
So how would you know what the revenue is going to send you tax bill?
You can work out, as an estimate, say on a weekly basis, for sake of argument, you say, look, I'm earning £1,000 a week. And then you say, all right, from that £1,000, my personal allowance for the week is about 250, because monthly allowance works out about 1,000. So you take that 250, balance of 750. You say, well, I've got other expenses, business expenses of 250, leaves me a profit of 500. On 500, my income tax will be at 20%. It's going to be about £100. So you put away that money into a savings account, and slowly it accumulates over a period of time. So when the tax bill comes, it doesn't come as a shock to you.
Yes, very good. Yes. Sort of pre-plan, estimate, guesstimate your monthly and put it away. Very good. Thank you. That's another good point. So you've got personal, and then you've got if you're running a business.
To another point,
sorry.
Mr. We've been up to now, we've been speaking about self-employment and income tax. We've roughly covered that in the tax year ended 21-22.
Yes.
Allows was £12,170. Anything above that, we said up to about 50,000, the income tax rate is 20%. And then you go on to a 40% rate. And the top rate, which really starts after £150,000, is at 45%. And I think people who are going to be paying taxes at 40%, 45%, normally would have their own accountant who would be able to advise and guide them. But
most big organizations have an accountant on site, don't they, who does the accounting daily, whatever, keeping the books, cash books, and debit, credit accounts, in the office. Yes.
Absolutely. But we want to concentrate really on members of our community who are thinking of starting their own business, or who are really small-time traders, self-employed. We're trying to make life easier for them. And as you know, Tamkin, we have been on this agenda for a very long time.
We have.
Whereby we want our people to be self-sufficient, to be standing on their own 2 feet, to be earning their money, making profits. And only when you start making profits and you've got your savings, will you end up paying zakat.
Yes.
And so we want our people to be zakat payers.
Yes. Definitely.
It's only when they pay zakat, Of course, it's an obligation as well, but it shows that they are able to pay zakat because they are standing and earning their own way in the society. And we need to be self-sufficient. This has been our objective for many, many years. Why we have done those TV programs, radio programs, to encourage our people to be self-sufficient, to stand on their own 2 feet.
Now, coming on to that, if I may, we've been talking on different shows about this, and you had the peddler's license as well, temporary peddler's license. Yep. Also, next month or a few months' time, mango season is coming in, and people sometimes import mangoes. So there is an opportunity, from now till maybe June, July, August, September, where they can make a little bit of money on the side officially and pay if they do earn more than 12,000.
Oh, absolutely right. And, that leads me on to, you are a very smart student. I remember you remember mangoes as well. And, Pakistani mangoes are really the top in the world. Inshallah, they'll be coming on the market sometimes towards the end of May, beginning of June.
Yes.
And without being biased, I would say last time I was in Pakistan, let me tell you a story.
Yes.
I was in Pakistan July. I was in Pakistan 2 weeks ago, but in the summer months, that's when the mangoes come in. The moment I landed at Lahore airport, I took the cab towards my home. On the way, I stopped and I got myself mangoes, and I started eating mangoes for the whole of the 3 months I was there. And, they were costing about 50p per kg.
Per
and
kg?
Here, per kg. Wow. And here, you were getting these mangoes for about 10 pounds, about 5 mangoes. And there I was able to get 5 mangoes for 50p.
Well, obviously, there's this transportation cost, which I found, because I imported some, as you know. There's the transportation cost by plane, because they are perishable items. And that's a real cost. And then, obviously, everyone has to have their cut. And then at the end, the person selling the box of mangoes needs his 50p. And or a pound, whatever it is. And yes, there are a lot of costs involved in importing.
No, you're absolutely right. These mangoes which I'm taking, I'm buying them obviously
straight
from the stalls there, and it's but by the time they come here, of course, there are cost implications. But we should encourage our communities that make sure that see where you're buying, what stuff you are buying, which are the countries you are buying from, so that we are able to help and support each other. Yes. And it's very important that we work together to support each other in the right way.
As you know, I always buy Palestinian dates and whatever I can from Palestine, oil, soap, whatever they manufacture. I go out of my way to buy anything from Palestine if possible, to help our brothers and sisters.
All this, every little helps, as they say. We got to make sure that we buy Pakistani mangoes as well. I always buy Pakistani mangoes. And
Pakistani.
And they are the best, of course.
Of course, because of the taste.
You're making my mouth water, man, and it's Ramadan time.
I know. Well, 6th of June is the date that we have been given. 6th of June is when the best mangoes. End of May, they will start coming in. But 6th of June is when they really ripen and are best.
Yes.
From 6th of June onwards. So I'm sorry, sir. If you are going to Pakistan, go around the 6th of June.
I'll be next going in July, so I'll make sure I'll have your share of mangoes as well.
Oh, mashallah, very good.
But coming back to UK and the tax and the politics here, we mentioned about self-employment, the personal allowance, the type of expenses you need to keep, have a separate bank account. Now, if your wife or your husband actually works for you in your business, make sure that you pay them a fair wage for the work which they're doing. Yes. Because that will be tax deductible as well.
So if you've got 2 or 3 children and a wife who are helping you in a shop or business, just put them on the books. They were allowed, 12,000 each. 12,570.
Yeah. Make sure that they comply with the regulations, because don't forget there is a minimum wage.
Yes.
There is also a minimum age. Below that, they should not be working, and above that, they can work a certain number of hours. But coming back to what you mentioned about being self-employed and the peddler's license, so if
Mhm.
you want to hold a stall, if you want to, with the summer months coming, some of the students want to sell, door to door, they need to have that peddler's license. It doesn't cost that much. You just need to go to your local authority. They need your information about your address. They need your photograph and so on. And it's very, very simple procedure. But the good thing is, this is an opportunity for youngsters with the summer holidays coming up that what you call they should be trying and experimenting and seeing if they have the capacity to be self-employed.
Mm. It's a good training ground for them to really
Yes.
see what's involved and how hard it is hard selling actually, and especially door to door, or even on the streets if you've got boxes of mangoes outside a friend's shop or someone say, look, can I put some mangoes outside? And he'll probably charge you a little bit of rent as well for doing so.
No, yes, you can. Well, there's a friend of mine. He does this in Tooting, and
Uh-huh.
he was telling me the license from the council for the pitch in Tooting, some of the very it's £20 a day.
Okay.
Yeah, 20
Right.
pounds a day. Well, that's okay. So if there's a shopkeeper, he knows you and he's going to charge you £20 for having a small stall out there, and if you are able to make a living of that, out of that, then it's all legitimate, and why not?
Yes, yes. £20 seems very reasonable, actually, to be honest. If you
Yeah.
think that the sort of rates and rents that people are paying, when you're saying Tooting, I know a few people there. It's £100,000 the rent for a shop there, and I was amazed when people told me this is the sort of prices they're paying yearly. In that sort of region. It could be a bit less, 70. It could be a bit more depending on the landlord and the shop and location. But I thought that's quite a high price just for the rent.
Well, people must be making a living or making some profits if they are willing to pay that sort of money.
Mm,
It's a market economy, so you
yes.
pay the market price. By the way, I think we should mention that we are on Ramazan Radio 87.9 FM, and you are listening to Tahir Beg and Tamkin Riaz. Our topic today is self-assessment and tax. People who want to ring in, what number should they ring in, Mr.
Yes,
Riaz?
we have two numbers. We have a WhatsApp as well, and you can call as well on that number 077 614 60614. And the studio number as well is 0203 621 7590. Thank
And
you.
I believe this program is being live streamed on YouTube as well.
YouTube, I think, and also Facebook Live.
Okay. And so what's people want to log into YouTube? Where should they go?
Well, Ramadan Radio, if you put in Ramadan Radio in the search, you will find it.
Right.
If you put Ramadan Radio when you're in Facebook, it will come up as well, inshallah.
Okay. Well, okay, that's good. And have you got any questions that have come through?
Well, let's see if any questions. From me, I haven't got anything on my screen, but I'm
Right.
sure that people will. What usually happens if they don't ask during the program, when the program finishes, suddenly you get all these questions that have come in, and they say, "No, we will ask afterwards." Off here.
Yeah, well, that's fine. As long as we get the questions, then we can try and answer them. But just as a matter of interest, there are other tax-free incomes or tax-free allowances that are available. Let's discuss those. And one of the ones which is quite common among our community is, if you've got a house and you've got a spare room, you can let a room, fully furnished room. It's called rent a room scheme, up to £7,250 a year. You will be able to get for that totally tax-free under rent a room scheme.
Wow! Wow! Oh, I'd like to do it, but I don't think the wife would like anyone living here. Otherwise, I would do it.
I know you
Maybe
will
I
do
can ask her
anything.
to move out. I say, I pay the 7,250. You move out, and I'll get some lodgers in.
Well, you can say this because your wife is not anywhere near. I'm sure you would not mention that if she was near you, right? Otherwise,
Absolutely correct.
otherwise she'd
Absolutely not.
otherwise should sort you out, mate.
You sort me out. Absolutely. Mashallah.
So that 7,250 is on top of the 12,570 personal allowance.
Wow. Wow. That's good.
And if there are two people, say, sharing the house, so you and your wife, that 7,250 is split equally, 50-50.
Well, it's over £19,800
Yeah,
approximately.
yeah.
19,000, yes.
And there's some more good news which I can give you.
Yes.
If you've got shares and you get dividend income, up to 2,000 of dividend income is again tax-free.
It's bringing it up to 21,000 now, you know. I'm just adding all these little bits up.
Well, every little helps.
Yes, yes.
And then if you've got money which you have saved, if you have money in a bank, and if you're earning profits, as Muslims, we are not allowed to take interest. So we do not encourage people to put money where they're going to earn interest. Interest, as far as Muslims are concerned, is haram. It's forbidden for us.
Yes.
So we do not indulge in any activity that will generate interest. But there are Sharia compliant investments, and there are well-established organizations now within the UK,
yes,
who can invest the money for you. If you earn profits of up to 1,000 on that, is tax-free.
Per year, 1,000 a year.
Yeah, 1,000 per tax year. And then on top of that, don't forget the dividend allowance of 2,000, which I have mentioned. And when I say this tax-free, don't forget the ISAs, individual savings accounts.
Yes.
You can invest up to £20,000 in this individual savings account, and any profits that you receive from those are again tax-free.
Right. Well, I've got it up to 25,000 with your help that we can earn, not including the dividends. So, that's very good. 25,000 is a nice sum of money if you work it right.
The thing is, all of these means are available, but you obviously have to put money in there.
That's right.
And there's no guarantee, I should warn you, that, the returns will come, because things can go up or down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Most of our Asian people buy a second home or a rental home.
Yes.
Everyone's detail, everyone's things are personal, but generally speaking, what happens if you bought a home in a sole name or as a husband and wife, and then you sell it and the profits? If you can go into that, that'd be fantastic.
No, that's a good one. And as you say, within the Asian community, they are very much minded to have secure investments, and properties generally tend to be a secure investment. So if you buy another property, which you say buy to let, for example, the rentals that you receive, you'll be able to offset the expenses from there, whether it's property insurance, agents' fees, any repairs, renewals, accountants' fees, or the loan which you have on there, you will only be able to get tax relief at the basic rate on the loan. And of course, the rest is taxable. Now, the question which you are alluding to, if I understood you correctly, is that you've got this property, you've been declaring the rentals, and now you think, well, we're getting on a bit, let's sell this property. What are the tax implications of selling this second property? There are tax implications, but before I go there, let me tell you the good news first before I give you the bad news.
Oh.
Now, the good news is the house which you occupy as your principal private residence,
Yes.
When you sell it, it is not liable to any taxes. So it is
Oh,
totally
I see.
tax-free. But
Okay.
the word which I should underline is principal private residence. So effectively, it's been your home.
Yes.
When you sell it, there are no taxes for you to pay on that.
And you must
Now,
have lived there for a certain period of time.
well, it has to be your principal private residence.
Mainly.
So it's not if you live in somewhere, for a month and then sell it and buy another house for a month. The revenue say they look into it. They say what has been your quality of living. So if you genuinely live in there, you've been living in your house for the last 10, 20 years, you sell it. Well, it's not going to be liable to capital gains tax. Simple as that.
Capital gains, right.
On the other hand, if you've got another property which you have bought and you've been letting it, what are the taxes that you will pay when you sell? Well, it depends. Supposing you bought a property for 200,000
Mhm.
and now if you sell it and you sell it for 220,000, you've actually made a profit, and that profit is called capital gains. You
Mhm.
made a capital gain of 20,000 pounds.
Yes.
If you were the only one who owned that property, 12,300 of that capital gain is tax-free.
Okay.
Anything above that, you will be paying capital gains tax either at 18% or 28%.
Right. Between 18.
18% if you are a basic rate taxpayer, 28% if you are a higher rate taxpayer.
Okay.
Uh,
So it's worth doing, mashallah. Yeah, good, good.
On the other hand, if the property was owned jointly by you and your wife, that 12,300 would be available to each one of you, which
Oh,
makes it
24.
24,600 in total.
Right. Oh, so
Yes.
make sure you get around the 26,000, then there's no tax if it's in joint names. That's not a bad if you do. Can you do that every year? Or is it a
Yes,
lot?
you can, the thing is, yes, you have to be careful
Yes.
that the revenue don't say that you have started trading, because if it's trading, then it becomes liable to income tax.
Ah,
Yeah.
good.
But
Okay.
if it's not trading, then the answer is yes. But
Every 3 or 5 years.
sometimes,
It's every 3 to 5.
let me tell you on this capital gains tax and properties, what's happened is either the wife has got the property because this was her home before she got married, so that property has been let. Now she's married and they've been happily married for a number of years. You decide that we want to sell the property, maybe do something with it, give it to the children. uh, so you decide. But what you can do is, if up to now it has been exclusively, say, in the wife's name,
Right.
before you sell it, you can get it transferred into joint names. And transfers between husband and wife are not liable to any capital gains.
Okay, good. Well, that's a
It's
very good
just a
point.
it's just a simple procedure which you will have to go to the solicitors, make sure the title deeds are in joint names, and then when you sell it, each one of you will be able to have the capital gains tax allowance of 12,300 each.
Very good. Very.
And that could save you quite a bit of taxes.
Tahir Beg Saab, as always, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. It's always a pleasure to get this really good, correct information from someone professional like yourself. And, this information, many accountants may even charge for. We've been on for an hour. So, they give you 15, 20, half an hour free. So, mashallah, I really appreciate that you coming on. And also, I'm hoping that all the viewers and listeners and people have gained some knowledge, as I have, and I've been taking notes. And I will be getting my R43 form for the last 2 years, maybe. So I might make, a few pennies, £500, if they allow me. So that's
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
there you
Well,
go.
all I would say is thank you very much for having me on the program.
Welcome.
And to all our listeners, I would say Assalamu alaikum, Eid Mubarak in advance. And please remember us in your duas.
Thank you very much. And Eid Mubarak to you and all the listeners, and the hard work that Ramadan Radio has been doing, you know, with all their volunteers and everyone. Honestly, they have worked so hard to get
Yes.
these programs during Ramadan, obviously, when they are fasting. So everyone, Jazakallah khair for watching, and thank you very much, Tahir Beg Sahab. And I'm handing back to Ramadan Radio London, who I think they are going to play the azan in a few minutes, and they'll have some other adverts and things on the sheets. Jazakallah khair, and thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum.